This lesson is on solving multi-step equations. The essential question here is how can you use multi-step equations to solve real-life problems? The core concept here on solving multi-step equations is in order to solve them, you need to simplify each side of the equation, that means on either side of the equal sign if necessary, then use inverse operation to isolate the variable. What you're going to end up doing is reverse PEMDAS. So in this example here, we're solving a two-step equation, and it's asking us to check our solution. So the first thing that we're going to do here is write down that equation, and then we're going to add 13 to each side. See, by doing reverse PEMDAS, we look at subtract, add, divide, multiply, exponents, and parentheses. We do it in reverse order. And remember, we're looking for the inverse operation. The inverse of subtraction is addition. So we're going to add 13 to both sides. Remember, whatever we do to one side of the equation, we do to the other. So after we add the 13 to undo the subtraction, we get 2.5x equals 15. Now the variable is still not isolated yet. And remember, when there's no sign in between, it's actually multiplication. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take the 2.5x and do the inverse operation. If it's multiply, the inverse would be to divide. So we need to divide each side by 2.5. That will get the x by itself, so the x is isolated, and 15 divided 2.5 is going to be 6. So the solution is 6. In order to check that, we just put 6 in where x used to be. And we've got 2.5 times 6 minus 13, which is 2. So 2 equals 2, and so it checks out. Now looking at example 2, sometimes you might have to combine like terms to solve an equation. So if we're going to solve negative 12 equals 9x minus 6x plus 15 and check our solution, the first thing we're going to do is going to need to combine those like terms. So we've got that 9x and that 6x, negative 6x, that we need to combine. 9x minus 6x is going to give us 3x. So we've got negative 12 equal to 3x plus 15. So now we're ready to look at doing the reverse PEMDAS. Is there subtraction? No, because remember we're looking at the side that has the variable. Is there addition? Yeah, so we need to do the inverse operation, which is to subtract. So we subtract 15 from both sides. So we get negative 12 minus 15 is negative 27 equal to the 3x. And then remember, we're going to look again. Is there division? No, but there is multiplication. The 3 times the x. So we need to do the inverse operation, which is going to be to divide. So we need to divide both sides. Remember, whatever you do to one side, do to the other with the 3. So to undo that multiplication, we divide by 3. And then we're going to get negative 9 equal x as the solution. So then to check it, all we got to do is put that negative 9 back in where the x was, well, both of the x's, and we'll have negative 12 equals 9 times negative 9 minus 6 times negative 9 plus 15, which indeed gives you negative 12. And now as our third example, we're going to use structure to solve a multi-step equation. So looking at this, we've got a pretty massive thing here. We've got 2 times the quantity 1 minus x plus 3 equals negative 8. So the first step that we're going to have to do here is going to be to distribute. That way we can get the parentheses taken care of. We've got to have everything separate and then back together so we can get our x by itself. So we're going to have 2 times 1 minus 2 times x plus 3 equals negative 8. Then you're going to multiply that out, which you get 2 minus 2x plus 3 equals negative 8, and then combine your like terms. So if you're looking right here, we've got this 2 plus 3 here that we need to combine. So we end up with a negative 2x because that was, sorry, you kind of covered that up, but that's a negative 2 right there in front of that x, so that stays with that negative 2x. plus 5 equals negative 8. Then, the first step here, now that we've got it down to just multiplication and addition, is we do the inverse operations and do the inverse of PEMDAS. Is anything subtracted? No, nothing's subtracted from the variable, but something is added. The 5 is added. So we undo that by doing the inverse operation, which is subtracting 5. Subtract 5 from both sides, we get negative 2x equals negative 13. And again, that negative 2x is being multiplied. So we need to do the inverse operation, which is to divide. So we divide by negative 2 on both sides, and when that's simplified, we get x equal to 6.5. And if you put x in as 6.5 and check, you will get negative 8 equal to negative 8. So now the question is how are we going to use this in solving real-life problems? So we're going to use the table and find the number of miles, x, you need to bike on Friday so that the mean number of miles biked per day is 5. Remember, mean kind of means average, where you add them all together and divide by how many. So, we're going to go through our steps here. The first step was to understand the problem. You know how many miles you biked Monday through Thursday. You were asked to find the number of miles you need to bike on Friday so that the mean number of miles biked each day is 5. Then you're going to make a plan. Use the definition of mean to write an equation that represents the problem. Then you're going to solve the equation. So then, looking at solving the problem, the mean of the data set is the sum of the data divided by the number of data values, the definition of mean. So if we look at this, we're going to take all those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, plus x, our Friday, and divide it by the 5 days. And we know that that's equal to 5 because that's what it tells us. So if you add 3.5 plus 5.5 plus 0 plus 5, you get 14. 14 plus 5, all divided by 5 equals 5. So the first thing you need to do is, this gets a little different. This is when you don't do the reverse PEMDAS because the 5 is dividing everything. So we got to get rid of that 5 first. So to get rid of the 5 that's dividing, we multiply by 5. So now we got 14 plus x equal to 25. And then you can subtract the 14. I know it kind of throws you off because I've been drilling in the reverse PEMDAS, but when you have something dividing everything, then you have to multiply it first. But what that means is that you need to bike 11 miles on Friday. So look back. Notice that on the days that you did bike, the values are close to the mean, so close to that 5. Because you did not bike on Wednesday, you need to bike about twice the mean on Friday. So 11 miles is about twice the mean. So your solution is reasonable. So let's look at one more example here of real life situation. Your school's drama club charges $4 per person for admission to a play. The club borrowed $400 to pay for costumes and props. After paying back the loan, the club has a profit of $100. How many people attended the play? So again, first off, understand the problem. You know how much the club charges for admission. You also know how much the club borrowed and its profit. You're asked to find how many people attended the play. So let's make a plan. Use a verbal model to write an equation that represents the problem, then solve the equation. So if we're looking here, thinking of our words to solve this problem, if we take the ticket price times the number of people who attended, subtract the amount of the loan, that'll give us a profit, right? So let's just say that x is going to be the number of people who attended, because that's the one number we don't know. So if you charge $4 per person, remember that word per means divided by person, times x people minus 400 equals $100. So if you notice, this is again that little bit of stoichiometry here that you'll find out in chemistry. But when you multiply dollars per person, meaning that's in the denominator, by people, they cross out. And then you're left with 4x minus 400 equals 100. So then, to solve this equation, we're going to do the reverse PEMDAS since nothing's being divided by a number or something like that, but a whole numerator being divided by a denominator. So we're going to look here and we're going to do the reverse PEMDAS. So instead of subtracting 400, we do the inverse, which is to add 400. So whatever you do to one side, do to the other, and we get 4x equal to 500. Do the inverse operation, which is to divide, and you get x equal to 125. So 125 people attended the play. Now look back to check your solution and see if it's reasonable. Multiply 4 per person by 125 people, the result's 500. After paying back the $400 loan, the club has $100, which is the profit. So you did your math right. Make sure you show me your notes and do the assignment on Clever.